Good evening. It's gone 5 o'clock and we're still making videos. Let's once again talk fluffy knickers and DJI mic. Now, I've brought this with me and I'm 99.99% sure that the DJI mic will now be my go-to system. Indeed, this is the first time this entire trip, and I've been here for 3 days now, well, 2 nights anyway, and this is the first time that I've used the Road Go. The sun and the wind and this, everything's got to my head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the advantages of this system. Now, first of all, you will notice that it's now on 3 bars left of battery. So I've been using these for effectively 2 nights, a day and a half. The DJI box, just the box, with everything inside it, is 259 grams. When you add in the wire and your fluffy bits, you've got a system that's 285 grams.
To put it very simply, my power pack is 188 grams. My Road Go system is 110 grams. That comes to 298 grams. So by leaving out the power pack, I'm effectively saving 10 grams. Admittedly, obviously the power pack has a lot more power in it, 10,000 milliamp hours, than the battery pack here, which is about 2,500 milliamps, I believe. But I don't need the other power pack, and I was always reluctant to leave it behind when I needed, extra power for the Road Go. But now I don't need that, and that will now save me 10 grams.
This also charges them up when not in use. So what I used to bring was this one 20,000 milliamps, this one 13,000 milliamps, and I also used to bring a 10,000 milliamp power pack. Now, the problem that I was having is that I was struggling with some of my power packs to charge the DJI microphone system up. This power pack would work, but this one, my big one, would not. So I was having to bring an extra power pack or make sure that I kept this one spare to charge my Road Go system up. But now I left my 10,000 milliamp power pack battery at home. Obviously the power in this is nothing like as much as a 10,000 milliamp power pack, but I was effectively bringing a third power pack that I didn't really need. Now, if you want to travel extra light, you could just take the receiver and the transmitter of the DJI. The transmitter of the DJI is 35 grams. The receiver of the DJI is 27 grams. So literally you're looking at 63 grams for the transmitter and the receiver of the DJI. So you could, if you wanted to, just take those 2 things and that's it. And if you have enough power in your current power pack setup, which realistically I probably do, then you could simply use your power pack and charge up 63 grams of DJI microphone system. The Rode transmitter is 32 grams and the receiver is also 32 grams. So effectively 65 grams. So for all intents and purposes, there is no weight difference between the receiver and the transmitter of the DJI and the receiver and the transmitter of the Rode Go, if you just take one of each. Where I like the DJI, everything is self-contained within this unit. What I was finding personally with the Rode Go was that I was having to do a recording, keep an eye on how much power there was, and if necessary, I had to have 2 wires, not just one, but 2 wires. Now I can use 1 wire in an emergency to put power into this, but now I almost certainly will never need to charge this up in the field when I'm camping. So I'm also saving the weight of not only a power pack, but 1 wire, which isn't very much, admittedly. But what I was having to do before, and it was a little bit annoying and frustrating, I was having to get my power pack. This one didn't charge them up. So I was having to make sure I had a power pack that would charge up the Rode Go, plug 2 wires in, not just 1, 2 wires in, 1 wire to the transmitter, 1 wire to the receiver, and then let them charge and just, you know, keep an eye on them, make sure they got power. Now I can just whack them into here. Also with the Rode Go, it wasn't that easy. I mean, it wasn't difficult to see how much power there was, but it wasn't the easiest of things to do. And I just did find that the power would suddenly just, you know, deplete on me at the wrong time completely. And then I had to fuss and flap to get power into them quickly. With this, I don't have that problem at all. It just doesn't exist. Another really big advantage of the Rode Go, another really big advantage of the DJI is this little magnet thing here. So what I could do, if I got like a t-shirt on, because I don't always wear a shirt that I can clip this onto, I could get the transmitter and then simply, mind your hairs, simply attach it to myself there, and then it's like attached to a t-shirt. And I have to say that is very, very convenient. Just don't lose your little magnet. I think DJI actually sell magnets you can hang around your neck, so it's always there, but I'll probably carry on using this. So you can attach this to yourself much more easily and more conveniently than you can the Rode Go. The individual pieces, if you just want to carry them separately without carrying this, weigh exactly the same, but you get a lot more options here, and obviously this sticks to you much more conveniently. I think it's worth carrying the weight of this for the convenience of charging. Now there was, as the 1 or 2 of you that saw my other video, the issue of mono and stereo. Now I will thank another YouTuber, and I can't remember his name offhand unfortunately, but another YouTuber who doesn't have very many subscribers was actually very helpful in this regard. So I'm going to repeat what he said, but any errors are mine, not his. With the DJI, record everything in mono, because you will still get both speakers, both ears working in mono, because pretty much most of what we do is going to be in mono anyway, and it's just more convenient to do things in mono. If there's 2 of you, which isn't going to be that often, certainly for some of us. Check your levels on the controller to make sure that they're not clipping, and still record in mono. But then everything goes through one channel on Premiere Pro, and you can't adjust the voices. So it just makes sure you get it right on here. And I realistically don't think it's going to be a real problem. You can just get one person to talk, adjust their volume on here, and then you talk and then adjust the volume on there. If you do use stereo, apparently what you can do is you can set it to the left and right, but you can ignore the left and the right. So just set it in stereo. One person talks on one mic on one transmitter, the other person talks on the other transmitter, and then in post-production you can level them out, but obviously one will be to one ear, one will be to the other ear, but to ignore that for the minute. You can balance out the voices to make sure that one isn't shouting or anything like that. And then in post-production in Premiere Pro, and I don't understand how you do it, you can then combine the two stereo channels into one mono channel. And effectively from that, you will hear each person in both ears. Otherwise, you're going to be talking and you're going to hear one person in the left ear and one person in the right ear. And I think for what we do out here, I don't think it's going to sound right like that, which was always my concern, and I couldn't quite figure it out. But someone did explain that. So I'm passing that on, and I hope that is helpful. But basically, I think for most of what we do out here, do it in mono and don't bother with the stereo. And if you are talking to someone else, do it on mono as well. But just check your levels on the receiver to make sure that both people aren't clipping. And then I don't think you're going to have a problem. For what we do in the outdoors like this, we're not professional studio people. I think that will be fine. But like I said, you know, you have the option. You can carry 285 grams of battery pack and everything else like that, or 65 grams plus a fluffy and a wire, a few grams, you know, 70 grams of just that. And it's exactly the same weight as the Rode Go. I just personally like the convenience that when I'm not using stuff, maybe of an evening or something like that, I can just put everything into the box. I don't have to think about wires and is something getting charged up or anything like that. I can just put it in the box, job done. And it saves me wires, it saves me a power pack that I now don't need, and that's just more convenient, you know, for me. Obviously I've done another video on, you know, attaching your fluffy bit and everything else like that. So, you know, this is basically a chatty video. Watch all my other videos of this trip and you will hear the DJI microphone in everything else on this trip, apart from the one video on the DJI when we're doing it through the Rode Go. There's a million videos out there, I'm sure, comparing. The only thing you do have to be careful of is that if you're touching it, just keep an eye on and make sure that it is, you know, on mono. Obviously, because I've been messing around with it, I've been touching the screen. The screen is quite sensitive, so, you know, just be careful if you're touching it that you don't change settings without really realizing it. So if you press the button, the power button once quickly on the side, then it does stop you doing anything. So that's quite handy to know. It says locked. And then when you want to unlock it, you just press the power button on the side and then it's unlocked. And here you can see that the DJI receiver does work backwards in the hot shoe mount of the media mod. When you turn the receiver off, it does not turn the transmitter off. So here I'm using the DJI microphone. So in the DJI video, I'm using the microphone here, and I obviously have the receiver set up on the GoPro. When you turn the receiver off, it does not turn the transmitter off. Now, for some bizarre reason, the first evening that I was here, I turned the receiver off, and it might have been because I'd reduced the brightness of the green thing here, and I've since increased the brightness of the green thing to its maximum, because when I looked at it, for some reason I couldn't see it. And I'm thinking that what happened was, when I turned the receiver off, the green light flashes on and off, and I reckon I must have looked at that second, because I only looked for a second, when the light was off before it flashed back on again, as it were, plus it was on the lowest setting. And bizarrely, I kind of thought, because I turned the receiver off, that the transmitter turned off as well, so I didn't touch it. And then of course I woke up the next day with the transmitter flat as a pancake, and of course the receiver, because I turned it off, still fully charged. Luckily, because I have the power pack, as it were, the box, I was able to simply put this into charge and take out the other one. If that hadn't have been an option, then I could have just put this in the box, left it in there for 20 minutes, and then obviously carried on with it. Or if maybe I hadn't charged up the receiver, I could have popped it in the box for a few minutes, get a bit of power into it, use it as I needed, and then popped it back in the box again. But generally speaking, my usage, I haven't really drained them. They've kept power, you know, very, very well. And so far this trip, you know, even when I've just kept them out and used them without really popping them back in the box so much, they have kept power. But then I do turn them off in between usages. So it will be interesting to see how, you know, down the line that goes, because I did notice the Road Go's tended to lose power quite quickly, even when I was turning them off and trying to charge them up from power packs, which wasn't always very successful. One thing you do just have to be cautious about, you know, excuse my man boobs, what you do have to be cautious with the DJI mic, if I sit up more upright, I might look like I've got more of the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger than not. Anyway, because as a camper and an outdoors person, we're probably keeping the mic attached to ourselves. We don't want to be running the battery down when we're not talking, so it's obviously a good idea to turn it on and off as needed to preserve the battery. But the problem is, you do have to be careful, because the on and off button is here and it's directly opposite the record button here. So if you're not careful, you can end up pressing the record button and then your little red light comes on up here and you're recording at the same time as recording. When you use these things, you'll understand what I mean. And realistically, most of the time, we don't really need a backup recording. So, and I don't know whether that uses up more battery or what. So I have kind of discovered to turn it on and off, you kind of got to use your finger here and then have your thumb, you know, just a little bit lower down. It would almost have been better in their design. So if anyone knows DJI, tell them that next time they should put the record button down the bottom down here, so that when you're turning it on and off, because naturally our fingers go to press, you know, opposite each other, but you can't really do that comfortably with this. I mean, it's a minor thing and it doesn't really matter. It's just something that you need to be aware of, that when you're recording and turning on and off, just have your thumb lower down, not, you know, directly opposite, because we're not always simply just taking things out the box where it automatically is on and sticking it to ourselves and then putting it back in the box where everything turns off. You know, in the real world, we're using things, you know, minute to minute and things like that. I thought, just as a design thing, that's something that they may want to think about next time. And if it happens, you can thank me. And if it doesn't, then you can blame them for not watching a Tony Hobbs video. Of course, if you need to charge up your power pack with a power pack, but realistically, I don't think that you will need, you know, to do that out here, because there's going to be more than enough power in this to last, you know, several days out in the wild. So you're never going to be needing to charge that up. Just don't let it get cold in the winter. That's probably the main thing there. But I think it is a really, really good system for out here. I just like the convenience of being able to charge it, just chuck it in that box and then it's charged, job done. Much more convenient than having to use a power pack and 2 wires, which I did for a couple of years. It just gets a little bit inconvenient after a while. And what I tend to do regarding transportation is I have a pack like this, which I keep on my person. So my GoPro and any other bits that I need, including the DJI microphone system, goes in the pack like this. And then that just goes on my belt. So that's very convenient for that. And then that just goes inside a dry bag inside the pack. So during the day, I've got everything to hand, and then at night I can just chuck it in there quickly and then it charges up, and I haven't got to think about wires or overcharging or undercharging, or has one charged and the other hasn't charged, whatever. I must admit, I am finding it convenient out here this trip. Just be careful and cautious, because you can't get your fluffy thing, you know, it won't fit. You can't do it up with the fluffy thing on. That's the only thing. But what I did find is your fluffy thing, your spare fluffy thing, will fit inside there. If you want to store a fluffy in there. A bit more useless information on this ridiculously long-winded video on this. All right, I'm going to shut up. I'm sure I've spoken more than enough for this video. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video of a nutter in the middle of nowhere talking about a microphone system using the old microphone system. I'll see you in the next one. It's wasted about 4 minutes telling you about the on-off button. That's a typical Tony Hobbs bloody video, isn't it? So that's just something that I just thought was worth, I'll shut up now. But then everything goes through one channel on, what the fuck? My brain.